Okay, so your homework for 2-3, 2-4, or for 2-3 is due tomorrow because you should be easily able to finish that. 2-4 is due on Saturday and 2-5 is due on Saturday. That way I'll have a chance to look over it. Well, yeah, I'm going to leave the show me homework due there because those assignments are short. And I need a chance to look at those before you actually take the test and make sure that everybody's knowing how to do that. And then your review for Chapter 2 is due Wednesday next week at 11:55, and then the test is going to be on Thursday. Okay? Now, if you go into my math lab, I don't think I gave you until Wednesday to catch up in my math lab. I think I gave you until Monday.
I think it's today, that's the date on here.
No, but right before class I changed it again. Will you check, make sure that it's not?
It's the 9th.
Okay, and the 9th is Monday. Because I want you to get my math lab stuff done so you don't have to be worrying with that and you can actually be working on your practice test then. Okay?
Oh, yeah, okay.
So let's get everything all caught up so that we can all start Chapter 3 together and be ready. And notice that your Chapter 3 skills review is going to be due, I think, the day after the test. So that means as soon as you take the test on Tuesday, you're going to need to go in, or on Thursday, you're going to need to go in, and I'll move it to Friday, but you need to get that Chapter 3 skills test done so that you can go ahead and start Chapter 3 homework. Okay?
Are you going to have homework due over fall break?
Probably not. Probably not.
That'd be good.
I mean, I'll have due dates set that may kind of bleed into fall break, but they won't fall on a fall break day. Okay? And then here's your bonus assignment. And you do not have to write this out on a piece of paper. If you want to, you can. You want to type up a Word document, save it as PDF and submit it in there, you can. Or you can do exactly what I did. Right there in the comment box, you can type your answer. Okay? But I will not take it late. It has a hard deadline on it.
When is that? It's on the bottom left.
Yeah.
Tuesday.
Tuesday. It's due on Tuesday. Okay? And this is not math. You can see by looking at it. Why are you a business, accounting, or whatever your major is? If you're not a business or accounting major in here, please raise your hand for me. Okay, what are your majors?
Free fisheries and wildlife.
Okay, then you're kind of sort of falling into that category. I understand why you're
I
here.
thought that was if you are a business major.
No, if you aren't. If you are. There's a few majors that require this class, but you don't go on to calculus. So that's one of the reasons I want to know. And everybody else in here, you do need to realize that if you are a business or accounting major, University Parallel, either me or I think David Haga, or I think maybe Nellie Church is your advisor. But any of you that need to come and see someone for advising before we sign up for spring classes, you can come see me. You still need to make sure that I keep your name on the list, but you don't necessarily have to sign up for the advising appointment through Appointments Plus, although mine are there. You can sign up for one of my advising appointments, but mine are usually late in the afternoon. If you will let me know, I will schedule you an advising appointment so we can create your academic plan or update it in my office if you can't get in to see your other advisors, or if you just would rather come and see me, that's fine. Okay? Because I'll be seeing, I hope, all of you next semester in calculus. So, basically, whatever it is, what do you think your future job will entail? What led you to choose that major? And your extra credit doesn't depend on how correct your answer is. There is no correct answer to this. This is personal. But I'll base your credit on how thoughtful and well expressed your answers are. Use complete sentences, use good grammar. If a spelling mistake or a grammar mistake is bad enough a math teacher can see it, you need work. Okay? So I will not give you full credit if it's full of grammar and spelling errors. Yes, ma'am.
Do you have the answers for the
I have not posted them, but I will post them. Yes.
The test, is it gonna be just over chapter 2 stuff or chapter 1 stuff?
Chapter 1 and 2. Go back over your chapter 1 test. And if you messed up on something on chapter 1, make sure you understand what you messed up. Yes.
So on the chapter 1 test, I missed the last problem. Is there any way you can like post the answers to it so I could figure
We
out?
can go over that problem in class if you want to.
Okay.
Okay? Just ask me if we have time today, and we may. If we have time today, I'll do it today. If not, then I'll do it on Tuesday, but I'll try to do it today. And if not, I'll do a recording of it.
Okay, thank you.
So is every test gonna be the new chapter and the previous chapter that we?
Yes, because your final exam is everything we covered. And if the last time you looked at chapter 1 was when you took the test on chapter 1, and then it's December and you took the chapter 1 test back in September, you're not going to remember anything. But if I kind of force you to remember as we go along, then you'll do better on your final.
So will like our third test have 1, 2, and 3 on it?
Yes, because actually the chapter 3, which is only 3 sections long, chapter 3, it pulls everything in chapter 1 and 2 together because there's graphing, there's solving systems of equations, and it's all applied. None of chapter 3 is just do the math. It's all applications. So, I mean, on chapter 3, the chapter 1 and 2 stuff's kind of built in. It's kind of have to know how to do that.
So how long's the next test going to be on Thursday, like week-wise? Because I barely finished the last one on the next class. I was just wondering.
It will not be as long as the test review. The test review, I think, has 38 problems on it or something. It's got a bunch. It will be shorter probably than the last one.
Will there primarily be more chapter 2 on it, or will it be?
Primarily more chapter 2. It is mostly chapter 2. But since you need to know about graphing for chapter 3, then you can expect to see graph this equation and show me the graph. Okay? So look over your chapter 1 test, but it isn't necessarily going to be like the applications out of chapter 1. It'll be the more mechanical stuff. Okay? All right. Let's begin. We need to just finish this up. So last time we talked about how you find the inverse of a matrix. And you found the inverse of a matrix the same way we've done everything else with matrices. You put that bad boy in the calculator and you ask it to show you the inverse, and it does. Okay? There won't be as much work to show me on your next test. But that makes it really on you to be sure that the matrix you put in the calculator is the matrix that's on the test, because then all you're going to be able to show me is work, really essentially is the answer for a lot of these. Okay? So be sure you enter your matrices correctly on that test. And that's especially true with this. If you don't put the right matrix in, it'll either tell you there is no inverse or give you the wrong inverse. So this is the problem where we stopped last time. And from this problem, and I'm just going to pull some of this other stuff aside, because we're going to work on this together.
Is there answers for the review or no?
Not yet.
You are going to put them on there though?
Yes, I will. They will be there, I promise. It's not yet. And again, what I'm going to put up there is just going to be the answers, so you're going to have to supply the, how did you get there? Okay, we have,
Check and see if you did it right.
right. So here's what we started out with. We have a situation where we're needing to mix up fertilizer to provide fortification for the soil on different farms. And we have some information about 3 different brands of that fertilizer. One of them is Fertifund, one is Big Grow, and the other one is Soakum. And each one of those contains various amounts of nitrogen, phosphoric acid, and potash. You've got that in front of you. So where we got to yesterday, or I'm sorry, not yesterday, but Tuesday, is we got to this point and we didn't get much further, but I just want to review and go back how we got all of this. If you set up this matrix to be your coefficient matrix, remembering that the ones actually do show up in the matrix. So this is going to be 1x and 2y and 3z, and 3x and 1y and 2z, and then 2x plus 0y's is equal plus 1z, and these are equal to a constant. When we make the coefficient matrix, it's just the numbers. And then the variables can be pulled into a column matrix called the variable matrix. And then from there, what we do is we take the information in the problem and come up with 3 other column matrices that give us the information about the different farms. So if you're in Michigan, if you're reading your Michigan farm information, and I'm going to just concentrate on that right now. Then if you're in Michigan and you have soil needs that are nitrogen, phosphoric acid, and potash, then your units of nitrogen are 18. The units you need for phosphoric acid is 23. And you need 13 units of potash. However, if you're in California, then those units are 31 of nitrogen, 24 of phosphoric acid, and 11 of potash. And then in the third case, if you're in Kansas, the Kansas farm needs 20 units of nitrogen, 19 units of phosphoric acid, and 15 units of potash. So what happens here is that every one of those gives us a different matrix equation that we have to solve. So I'm going to pull this over, all this information kind of together for you now. So, for example, if we're talking about the Michigan farm, our equation 1x plus 2y plus 3z is equal to 18. And the second equation, 3x plus 1y plus 2z is going to be equal to 23, because this is the nitrogen equation, this is the phosphoric acid equation. And then the last one, the potash, is 2x for 2 units of nitrogen, but Big Grow supplies no potash, and then Soakum supplies 1 unit. And for Michigan, they need 13 units total. Okay? Now, what's going to be different in the way we're going to solve this, and the reason we want to use matrices, because it's the reason we want to use inverse matrices is because it's a really quick way to do it. What we're going to do is we're going to do the problem 3 times, but the second time we're going to substitute matrix C for the constants, and then the third time we're going to substitute matrix K for the constants. So the first matrix equation that we're going to solve is going to be the coefficient matrix, which is the same for everybody. 1, 2, 3, 3, 1, 2, 2, 0, 1, times the variable matrix, X, Y, Z, for the nitrogen, phosphoric acid, and potash, is equal to the Michigan needs matrix. And we talked last time that if this was an algebra equation, then what we would really like to do is take matrix A and divide matrix B by matrix A. But the problem is there's no such thing as matrix division. So we said that really division is the same thing as multiplying by the reciprocal, and in matrices that reciprocal is called an inverse. You don't take the reciprocal of all the elements of it, you take the inverse of the matrix, which gives you back the identity matrix. So what we're going to do instead of doing this is we're going to take matrix A inverse times the constant matrix, which is matrix B, and that will give us matrix X, which is the answers to the question. Okay? So we're going to need to find the inverse of this matrix.
We got there, the inverse of A, B, I can't see the equals there at the top.
Oh, sorry, thank you.
Equals X.
Yes. So what we're going to do is take the inverse of that first matrix. And we're going to use the calculator to do it, but then we're going to have to explain what the answer means. So if you'll walk with me on this, go to your matrix button, go to your edit button, choose matrix A, give it the right dimensions, which is a 3 by 3. And then enter the values for the matrix, which are 1, 2, 3, 3, 1, 2, 2, 0, 1. Just copy that matrix into matrix A. And then as long as you hit enter, once you enter that last value in matrix A, then either quit and go back in, or just simply go back to the matrix screen immediately and go back over to edit. And we want to edit, oops, sorry, matrix, edit. We want to edit matrix B, okay? And matrix B is a 3 by 1, 3 rows, 1 column. And the numbers for Michigan are 18, 23, and 13. So from there we're going to quit. We're going to double check our matrices. So I'm going to look at matrix A, make sure it looks like this. I'm going to check matrix B and make sure it looks like this, because if those don't look like they're supposed to, then the answer's not going to be correct. And then I'm going to hit the matrix button, choose A, hit the X to the -1 button. That's how you get the inverse. You get your matrix inverse.
You want A, is it -1 up there?
It's going to be the -1. And the way you get that -1
Put that inverse button.
is you get the X to the -1 button. That gives you the inverse.
Press enter.
And then, no, don't press enter yet. Now we need to multiply that times matrix B. So matrix, choose B, and now you hit enter.
Multiply it,
Yeah, you need to multiply.
matrix B.
Right.
Okay.
So when you solve A inverse B, which is what you're actually doing here, when you put in A to the negative 1 times B, that's what you're actually doing. When you hit enter, then you get that matrix, but that matrix now, you have numbers. Five, 2, 3. And now we know the answer to the question for Michigan.
Is that what you get when you multiply there, 5, 2, 3?
That's what you should get.
Yeah. Okay.
So the farm in Michigan will need to purchase 5. I'm just going to put 5 units because I'm not sure what the units are on these. So 5 units of Fertifund fertilizer. Two units of Big Grow. And 3 units of Soaker. So you need to answer the question in a sentence. Okay? Anybody have any questions? Okay. Now, most of our work is done to solve the next problem. To solve the next problem, we're going to employ the same process, but what's going to change is matrix B. Matrix B now needs to be the California matrix. Okay? So we're going to do the same thing, except we're going to change matrix B into the California matrix. So it has 31, 24, and 11 for its values.
What do you do, make that matrix B?
Yeah, you just change the elements in matrix B into the California one. So that way you're just making 3 small changes. Then you're going to repeat exactly what you did before. You're going to do matrix A inverse times matrix B. But because matrix B's interests have now changed, it'll answer the question about what does the California farm need. So the answer in this case is 247.
So you take the same thing we did last time. You get 247.
Right. So that means in California, farm will need 2 units of Fertifund, 4 units of Big Grow, and 7 units of Soakum. And I think here you can see why this is such an efficient method, because once you've got that inverse, you can keep on using that inverse over and over again and only have to change your constant matrix. So now we have one more question to answer. And that question takes us to the Kansas matrix. Now we'll solve that one. So we're not going to change matrix A at all. What we're going to change is matrix B. We go back to the matrix, back to edit, choose matrix B, which is still a 3 by 1. But the values of matrix B now are going to be 20, 19, and 15. Make sure when you put it in, it says 20, 19, 15. And then again, you do matrix A, hit your inverse button, multiply, matrix B, hit enter, and we get an answer that's a little bit strange, because the answer is 1, negative 10, 13.
0?
Excuse me?
Does that mean 0? We got that big negative?
No, that's what we need to talk about. This is 1 unit of Fertifund. And 13 units of Big Grow. I'm sorry, of Soakum. But here's the big question. How are you going to incorporate negative 10 units of a fertilizer? Can you incorporate into the mixture 10 units, negative 10 units of the fertilizer? No, you can't do that. So what that means for all practical purposes is that Kansas is going to have to find another fertilizer mix. Okay? The solution's impossible. Okay? It's just not possible. This is the right answer. This is the right matrix, so the math is right, but the solution isn't possible realistically for what they're trying to do. So what we have to say then, we have to write a conclusion. Kansas farms need to find a replacement for the Big Grow. And then the other implication is they may to buy more of the fertilizer that they use than they actually need. Now, we'll have a way to actually figure that out in the next chapter, but right now we don't have a way to answer Kansas's problem. Because Kansas's solution with those 3 brands of fertilizer isn't possible. And if they were to buy 1 unit of Fertifund and 13 of Socom, what's going to happen is they're going to have too much nitrogen and too much potash in order to get this one right, in order to get their phosphoric acid right. Okay? So be sure you understand how to answer the question. So that actually is the last problem for that unit. Does anybody have any questions they can think of right now they need to ask? Okay, well, let's switch gears a little bit. Savannah had a question about the last problem on test 1, and I think now would be a good time to try to cover that, since you're going to need to know how to work that problem on test 1.
What are you doing, ma'am? Sorry.
We're going to go to the last problem on the exam, on the test.
On the practice test?
No, on the actual test that you took last time, because everybody kind of had issues with the very last problem. So I'm going to go back to that test, the one you haven't gotten back yet. Okay. Now, to be honest with you, y'all way overthought this problem. The ones of you that missed it completely overthought it, because it should not have been a hard problem. It was actually intended to be an easy problem. So let me show you the best way to approach this, and maybe that'll help you avoid messing up in the future. Number one, if I give you a graph on a problem, read the graph. Try to get your information from the graph, because the graph will answer some of the questions without doing any math. Okay? So, actually maybe the best way to do this is for me to just print that page. So let me print it so we can actually work it together. Ask the question. And then because I think we probably, I think I need to print that page too. There's another one I want to print because a lot of people messed up on it.
I was confused about the numbers, like the graph looked like it was blurry. And
It is,
It
but-
was hard to tell what the numbers actually were to be.
But that's why I asked you to tell me what you thought the points were for point A and B. And then After that, your answer's gonna be based on what you thought the points were that'll answer that. But let me go ahead and print this page and the last page. Because a lot of people mess this one up too. Not everybody, but the people that did really do need to see. See, this is page 5. Pop up the printer box. Okay. Okay, I'm going to use a ruler to help us do our estimations. So we've got this graph here. It says the monthly supply, which is S of P. And I want you to notice that S of P has a positive slope. There's your supply. Supply always goes up when the price increases. Because if you're producing a product and the price is going up, you want to produce more of it so that you'll sell more and take in more money. Okay? This is a point, point B. Point B is on the supply function.
Will this recording be on, shall we?
Yes,
Okay.
by this evening. So looking at point B, I can tell fairly clearly that point B has this for its X or its first coordinate. And I tried as best I could to give you a point that you'd be able to estimate pretty well what the other point was. So if you used a ruler, you see that point D appears to be, since this is 500, 600, 700, 800, 900, 1,000, it appears to be about 900. And this is 300. So it's 300 for the price, and at that price, they will supply 900. Now, while I'm still talking about the supply, I want you to notice what the y-intercept is. Its y-intercept is 0, 0. Now, we also have a demand function on that graph. And this demand function, as you should remember, demand always goes down as the price goes up. When the price is low, people are willing to buy a lot of it, but as the price increases, they want to buy fewer and fewer, and at some point, the price becomes too high and they stop buying it at all. Okay? Well, the demand function has point A on it. But I want you to notice also that it has a y-intercept. Its y-intercept appears to be, this is 3,000, 3,100, 3,200, 3,300. I just want you to remember that for now. And again, I'm going to have to do my best guess for what point A actually is. So your guess may not match mine, and it's not required that it does. You just need to tell me what it is. So my guess is that point A is 200. Comma, and this is 2,000, 2,100, 2,200, 2,300. And most of the people that gave me these answers gave me something really similar. But I based all the rest, especially this, on what you told me for these points. So if your answer didn't match mine, it wasn't a big deal. It had to work with, you had to have used the points that you told me you were using to find your answer. So then, the next question I asked you, you shouldn't have needed to do any math. Some of you did, but you shouldn't have needed to. If the selling price is higher than it should be, consumer demand for the item will. What happens when the price is high? What happens to demand? It goes down, so it decreases. And the producer's willing to supply it will increase because it's going up. Okay? Now I'm going to skip this until the end. And I'm going to show you the way that it would have been easiest on all of you to answer these questions. And again, I wasn't looking for a specific right answer. I was looking for process. So at the bottom of the page, it says, suppose the price of a video game console is set at $400 each. That's P. How many consoles are the suppliers willing to make? How many will the consumers be willing to buy? And at the price of $400, is there a shortage or a surplus? You can answer every bit of that by reading the graph. Come back up to the graph and find 400. And go straight up to the graph at 400.
That's the selling price.
That's the selling price. And try to figure out what the Y value for that is on, I have to top off this a little bit shorter. What is the point on the green line where Y is equal to 400? Now, you may not have been exactly where I am. You may have thought it was something a little different. But I'm assuming that it intersects right about here, so my interpretation there was 1,200. Somebody else may have thought it was a little higher than that and thought it was 1,300. Okay? So at a price of $400, the suppliers are willing to produce either 1,200 or 1,300. All of those would have been perfectly fine answers. You didn't have to do math to get those.
As long as you're in the neighborhood.
As long as you're in the neighborhood. Okay? And then the consumers are willing to purchase. Okay, that goes back to demand. So at the same time then, I need to try to find the value of that 400 on this line. So, you know, maybe you choose that one. If you choose that one, it's 1,400. If you choose that one, it's 1,300. If you choose that, it's 1,200. But I think probably you're more likely going to choose somewhere around $1,300 or $1,400. But the clearest thing that you can see is if you're looking at where it's 400 want you to notice that the equilibrium point is not there yet. They have not reached equilibrium, so they do not have the same value. They have two different values. And I think you can see that the red line, the demand line, is higher than the supply. And when the demand is higher than the supply, that means there is a shortage. Okay? And then going ahead to the next page, and again, I'm going to bring the graph back up here, at a price of 200. Same question. Now, 200 actually, to begin with, was one of your points. So, for your demand should be the same as this point here. So that should be 2,300. Your supply, on the other hand, would be the coordinates of that point. And here again, that's kind of open to interpretation. You might have interpreted it to be 500, you might have said it was 600, you might have even thought it was 700. Ballpark. What did you think? Regardless of what you think, it's pretty easy to see if you look at the graph that your demand exceeds your supply. And when your demand exceeds your supply, what did you tell me happens? Shortage or surplus? Shortage. Okay? And then this last one was also something that you should not have had to have hit not a single bit of math. Although if you did Part B, you could have done math. And people that did it that way, you got credit. But the people that anybody that couldn't even do this should have been able to answer all the rest of them just by looking at the graph. That's what I want you to understand. If I give you a graph, use it for everything you can. Okay? The equilibrium point is right here. Now again, you can't tell on that graph exactly where it is, but you can come close. You can see that the equilibrium price is a little bit more than 400. You can see that the equilibrium supply and demand is right around 1,200, 1,300, somewhere in that ballpark. So the price was, and you could use the words, about $4.10 per console. And the equilibrium quantity about 1,200 or 1,300. It's fairly clear that it's not as high as 1,400, but I would have even let you buy with 1,400. So about 410 and either 1,200, 1,300, or 1,400. Now the exact answer was $412, comma, and then the equilibrium quantity was, I think, 1,238, depending on what those two equations were. It was about that with the equations I came up with.
So on part E and F, I got those two backwards. Because like in our macro class, also the price goes on the y-axis and the quantity on the x-axis.
I know, and it does a lot of the time in here too.
And I was just confused why it's backwards on this also. And whenever,
Yeah, but you still have to go with what the graph says.
okay.
I mean, even though some economics usually does exactly as you said. Okay, and there was one problem in here I think I pointed out to you that when you're doing economics, they do it a certain way. And mathematically, it really doesn't matter which one is which because they're linked together and one depends on the other. So you can manipulate the price to manipulate the demand, or you can manipulate demand to manipulate the price. Or you can manipulate.
But when I set the two equal to each other, I got 412.5 finding equilibrium quantity.
Yeah.
So that's why I was confused. You said that 412.5
Is the equilibrium price. Look at your axis on your graph. Okay? What's your units? That's one of the big things that got a lot of people in here that lost you points. Sometimes was the difference between the grade you got and the next grade letter up was that you didn't read your problem carefully. You need to learn to read carefully. Business people, accountants, they are avid readers. They have to be. Okay? Because they have to read all kinds of reports, analyze all kinds of information, and not make any mistakes. So a big challenge for y'all in this class is going to be that you need to read your application problems really carefully. Okay? Did I count it totally wrong, or did I just show that it was
You put
wrong?
minus 2 points on that and minus 2 points on part B. But it's fine, I understand.
Okay,
I was
because
just-
part B was worth 4 points, not 2 points.
Yeah.
And these were worth 2 points each. So you had the right answers, you just had them switched, and I only counted off for the switch. I didn't count off for your answer.
Yep.
Okay, I always try to give you partial credit as much as I can. Okay, now, let's go back and talk about this one. D of P has a negative slope, right? It has a y-intercept of 3,300. You can tell that off the graph. It contains point A. Point A, if you simply take its, you can kind of divide the y-coordinates, but if you use the other one, or if you use any other point on that graph, you can calculate the slope. So this is for demand. The slope for demand, when it's 200, the demand was 2,300. It's $200 in price, 2,300 units. When there were no units, or excuse me, no price when they first started out, the instant demand was 3,300. So that means that your slope, 2,300 minus 3,300, should have been somewhere around 1,000 divided by 200. I would have tried to choose, whole, easily discernible units here rather than try to go into $1,225 because you can't tell that off this. So you want to pretty much stay with even hundreds. So that means that 10 over 2, your slope is -5. Okay? Using point A and your y-intercept, because that's one of the clearest points you can get. If you pick others, you should get something similar. But the clearest one would have been the y-intercept up here. That's the clearest one. And if you use that information, then D of P, remember P is your variable here. P meaning price per unit. So it's -5 times P plus 3,300. Include units. this is units, or consoles if you want to, at P dollars selling price. And this is the units demanded. So you've got to tell me what that means. And it didn't have to be exactly those words, but something to let me know that P was the price and D was the number of consoles, or the number of units that people wanted to buy. Now the one below that says find S of P. That's your supply. The supply, you have the 0.00 and 300, 900. So your slope for supply is -9/3, because those zeros really don't matter. So -9/-3 is +3. So S of P is 3P. And here again, you need units. Consoles supplied at P dollars each. So you don't have to word it exactly the same as I do, but the idea has to be there. This was 1 point. That was 1 point. This was 1 point. That was 1 point. If you got the equations, didn't get the units, you got -2. If you got all 4 of them right, you got all the points. If you wrote down nothing, that was -4. It didn't count heavily against you if you couldn't do that. But if you blew the whole thing because you didn't read your graph, yes, that problem hurts you.
So by units now, you mean sentences, not just
Sentences or
price?
words, yeah. Some people told me that P equals price in dollars and D of P equals number of units demanded. And okay, yeah, that's fine. But just tell me what they are. It doesn't really have to be a sentence. But I want you to identify that, because remember, like I told you, your boss isn't going to say, solve this algebra equation, and you tell them, well, P is equal to 12. Because they're going to look at you like, and would you speak English, please? I don't speak algebra. Okay? That's the big deal. Now, the other one that I did want to bring up, I'm not necessarily going to work all of it. A lot of people messed up on number 9. Number 9, you either got it or you had no clue. Find the cost function, and again, here you needed to put in units. Units would have been t-shirts for C of X and R of X. That would be X, the number of t-shirts, and then C of X and R of X, and down here somewhere P of X is dollars. Dollars cost, dollars revenue, dollars profit. Okay, her marginal cost to produce one t-shirt is $2.50. Marginal. This is important when you get to calculus. Start associating the word marginal with slope.
Damn, that's hard.
That's right. That's a good way. That's an excellent way, Colin. Colin is to remember M is marginal. Marginal is slope. Okay? So slope, which is also a rate of change. So when you find the linear cost function, C of X, it's going to have a slope, and it told you the slope right there. You need to find the fixed cost. This will help you find the fixed cost. But you have to use this in conjunction with the fact that one shirt is $2.50. Okay? She sells 40 t-shirts, and it costs her a total, marginal plus fixed cost, costs her a total of $170. There's how you find your fixed cost. Solve that equation. 2 steps. That's all it takes. Revenue. She sells them $7 each. There's your model. 7 times the number of shirts tells you her revenue for that many shirts. And revenue is in dollars, and X tells you how many shirts. How many does she have to sell to break even? Set this equation and this equation equal to each other. I don't remember exactly what the fixed cost was off the top of my head. Let's see. It's 160, I think. Yeah, 160. So you take 2.50x plus 160 is equal to 7x and solve for x. That'll tell you how many t-shirts, and it actually has to be rounded up, and I think it came out to be about 16 t-shirts. Okay? This last one, we're going to be cheerleaders now. Profit equals revenue minus cost. Say it with me. Profit equals revenue minus cost. Come on. I'm not joking. Profit equals revenue minus cost. Profit is not equal to revenue. Profit is the money that you have left over after you took in your money for selling the shirts and took out your cost. Okay? When you do this one, when you do profit equals revenue minus cost, this is a very big deal. 7x is the revenue, but your entire cost function must be subtracted. So you have to subtract, and don't forget to distribute your negative sign. Combine those two terms, and your profit equation is going to be something times x. I think it's 4.5 or 450x minus 160. Here's your profit equation, and it says she wants to make $800. Solve for x. Okay?
Ms. Flint, is
Yes.
there a way you can, maybe give us what we're making right now?
I can give it to you now, or well, yes, probably over the weekend I'll get your grade reports, because I don't want to wait till after the second test. I'll send you a new one after the second test.
And that would be like the total of what we're making?
Yeah, exactly where you're standing right now with everything. I usually do those the day after I give the test back, but life was crazy last week. We had the Because of You campaign, and I was involved with that, and I got behind really bad. I understand we all get behind.
Yeah, so can we continue to proceed?
Just come by my office.
That's why you started the problem, and you got to get it through that major.
I'll let you know how mine goes. I'm on the phone. You said that.
Okay. If you'll send me an email, I'll bring it up to you, to their office. Or anytime, I'm in my office for the next class period, and then I go to calculus at 1:30, and I'm back in my office at 3, I think it is.
And also, you said that we could either retake it or not do it. Is it for people who have like a low, like a super low grade, or like how?
If you passed it, I'm not gonna let you retake it right now.
Okay.
As long as, if you passed it. Now, somebody that barely passed it, like 70, I'll probably negotiate with you, like 70, 71, because that's barely passing. I mean, it's not barely passing, 66 is barely passing. But, you know, I understand somebody that makes like 70 and normally makes A's and B's wants to make higher. But I'm trying mostly to let the people that just blew it to come in and retake it.
Am I one of those?
Don't know. Don't know, I'll let you know.
So for this,
You got my test, don't you?
I do, I haven't graded it yet.
I got
But you
it
still
wrong.
haven't graded it?
It's in my office laying on my desk.
I got it wrong. I just should have put like harder for here, they need to sell. And then,
Yeah, that's why, see, you only lost 1 point, and that was why.
So-
Because you did it right,
I think for the most part I got it, just the stuff that I missed was little stuff.
little stuff.
So should I retake it or should I not retake it?
So let's look. This one, I was surprised that you missed, seeing that you did the rest of it so much better. Because this one really should have been a lot easier. I don't know why. Well, you only lost a couple of points though. You
Yeah.
you just didn't read.
Yeah, and I just like skimmed over it. I should have.
This is totally right. I don't know how you wrote down that and then you just like, I don't know where you went after that. That was because of the units. Yeah, it says, you messed up some math here somewhere, because that should have been 41,874 shoppers.
So I had that one right there. I should have stopped right there.
Yeah, you should have stopped there. I couldn't figure out what you were doing, so I just said, no, you shouldn't have done this. What you did up there was perfect, but after that it was like, no, you need to know when to stop. And I really didn't count off except for the units on that one. And I didn't count off on this one, other than the fact that you used this equation and came up with a different answer, because this actually came out to be 2039, I think.
So I was fairly close.
Yeah, you were somewhat close, but I wasn't sure what you were doing here. This is kind of the right process, but somehow you're not getting the right answer. Okay? This one was fine. You only lost points for units.
That one was easy after looking at it.
Yeah.
I got it.
Yeah.
Because those are your intercept, like those
Right.
are your points.
And if you had graphed, you wouldn't have had to have done anything else. All you had to do was plug that in the calculator, plug that in the calculator, graph, find the intersection, done. Okay? And here again, it was little things, except here,
I should have did this
Yeah,
equation
what-
instead of doing that.
right, you used the revenue equation. That's why I did you weren't the only one that did this. There were several of you. You were in good company. That's why I did my little cheerleading thing. Profit equals revenue minus cost. Profit and revenue are not the same.
And,
Yeah, and this is, it looks like all of these were minor.
yeah. So should I retake it or is it not a big deal or?
If you're gonna retake it, I would retake it before fall break. But if you wanna wait and see how you go on the next one,
Can I do that to determine if I want to retake it? Because I get one retake, or how does that work?
I may let you have one retake now, and then I'll replace any other lower test grades with the final, because there's not gonna be a lot of time for retakes later on.
So I can take the test on Tuesday or Thursday.
Yeah.
And depending on what I make on that, I can.
Yeah, when you come back from fall break, you need to tell me I want to retake my first test or I don't.
I posted my grades, so I get a point,
Yes.
and so I get a 68, basically. And then our 10 points, what does that get for us? If we get 10 points?
It goes in my bonus points column. I use it wherever it
And
will
then-
help you the most at the end of the semester.
Where I switched classes, I still did the bonus point for the other class, where you had to tell like about yourself.
Yeah.
But it's not in this one, it's in the other one.
Okay, if I give you a grade report and it doesn't give you that bonus point, let me know.
Or you
Because
can
I
set up-
may have forgotten to move it over.
Will you give us that on Tuesday, by any chance?
Yeah.
Could you get it to us on Tuesday?
Yeah, I actually, if I can get them done, I'll send them out to you in Shelby.
Okay.
That way, You know, it's right
Like,
there.
ease my mind like a lot.
Okay.
Thank you.
Or, you know, I got a call that you've not graded yet, so we didn't study for the test. Is there a way after you graded, you can email them to us?
I can scan them, post them, and show you.
Yeah, that'll work.
That works?
I just want to make sure I was on the right track, like here especially.
Yes.
That's kind of course, I was not as precise with the rulers that needed to be, but
Actually, I should have changed that to an equation. Because this is really chapter 3 problem. I thought I changed that one. Apparently I did not.
and that one I couldn't graph because it had a z-axis.
Yeah, I may need to modify that because I did not mean for those two problems to be in there. They should have been.
But has that
two-
worked?
Yeah, you did it right. This is chapter 3. That's right. I need to go back in and look.
And then this one confused me because it's a square, but when I plugged it in on my calculator.
Not all matrices
Okay.
have an inversion.
Okay.
And I'm glad you showed me that because I need to tell everybody, do not do those two problems. I'm going to be changing the practice test. Because those should not have been on there. Those are actually chapter 3 problems. And I had substituted, and apparently I pulled the wrong version. I had substituted 2 chapter 2 problems instead.
Okay. So I'm just gonna make sure, don't upload this one, upload the new one.
Upload the new one.
Okay.